Lisa. Very seldom do I print just true 4x6 prints. I will take photos and scale them down to like 3x5 and put that on a 4x6, or I'll take a couple of photos and put them together to get some smaller ones. And I'll print, a few odds and ends 4x6 photos to use on my pages. But to just go through like vacation photos and take a whole bunch of them and send them to print 4x6, I very rarely do that. However, we just took a trip a few weeks ago with my parents, and I wanted my mom to have a copy of the pictures, and for my dad to be able to see some of the things that he didn't get to go around and see. And so I sent a whole bunch of stuff to print and made an extra copy for me to have to go through and put in my scrapbook. So I have a bunch of regular 4x6 prints. And I also did a couple of 5x7s from the trip, things that came out especially good and I knew I would want to scrap. And I always feel like, well, I can go back later and I can do more prints, but I just don't typically do that. So I have all these 4x6 photos, and many of them are scenes or garden scenes or art or something of that nature, and there are some with us in them. What I want to do with these, I think, is to take some of these 5x7s and some of the really special photos that have us in them and put those on a regular page, and then use my my pocket pages for the rest of the photos. And the pocket pages that I have, in fact, the only thing I have left are these. This is from American Crafts. And you can still get these. I saw them at a Cherry on Top. I've had them a long time, but you can still order them. They have 3 4x6 landscape and 2 4x6 portrait. And then you have this little 2x12 area, which is a good place to put a title or journaling for the page. I'll probably use it for some very narrow strip of journaling, or I could write my journaling going this way if I wanted to. What I think I'm going to do is one single page, regular normal 12x12 page, and then do a full sheet of this front and back. So I can do 10 photos, or I could do fewer photos and have some extra journaling. But I'll probably go ahead and do 10 photos, 6 landscape, and 4 portrait from the trip. And we did most of these photos are from 2 different gardens that we went to, so I'll probably do one of these for each of the gardens. So I get to keep a bunch of the photos in my scrapbook that I really like and still tell the story on my regular scrapbook page. So first thing up is to pick out the photos. This first one that I want to do out of the 5x7s, both of the 5x7s were made at the same garden. You can kind of tell we're dressed in the same clothes. I think this is going to be a picture for sort of an overall trip page, so I'm going to save that one, and I'm going to use this one of my mom and my husband and me. I thought that was an especially good picture. And my dad rode the tram around to different places in the garden, but he didn't do a lot of walking, so he wasn't in the area when we took this particular picture. And so let's just go through and fast forward here as I make selections. Now, I've got my photos in order. Some of these in the back are a different garden. So let's see where it breaks at. About right here, yeah. Yeah, this is where we start the Atlanta Botanical Gardens, so I put that aside. And so I need to pick 10 photos out of this for my page protector. These photos were taken at Gibbs Gardens, an hour north of Atlanta. And it was originally a private garden, and it's been made public. The owners still live in the house there, but the gardens are just phenomenal. That's what he has done. These photos are really in 2 parts. The part around the house, you can't go in the house, but you can look at the part, all the gardens around it, and then the Japanese garden, which is, I believe, the largest one in the U.S., if not in North America. So it's just a gorgeous place, and I wanted to capture as many of the pictures as I could. I was really kind of surprised I had as many portrait-oriented photos as I did. There's one of my mom that I'd like to use. So I'd like to do a mixture of ones that have us in them as well as just ones that show the pretty scenery. The picture of me and my dad I had somebody take, and sometimes you get good photos that way and sometimes you don't. And it was done on my cell phone, and I really couldn't tell that it had kind of come out a little bit blurry. So, but it's the photo I've got, so that's what we're going to work with. And I've got all of one side, and I'm just kind of narrowing down the photos on the other side, making sure I'm covering kind of different ground. So for the companion page to go with the pocket page, I'm doing this 5x7, and I'd like to put it on a wood grain background. And I went through my wood grains, and anything that was close to the right color was mostly things that look like wood flooring. In fact, this is from the Cottage Living collection by, is it Pebbles? I can't tell. Yeah, Pebbles. So it's really not kind of what I'm going for here when I want something out in the woods. And I ended up with this sort of stylized print from Authentique, but I keep feeling like little chipmunks or squirrels ought to pop out of the background or something with that particular paper. It's just a little bit too cutesy for what I'm going for. So I remembered that I have this hardwood stamp from Stampin' Up. It's a wood grain stamp that is more authentic wood grain than the stylized kind of version. So I'm going to try it to create a background and kind of stamp across a sheet here to do a background map, probably with the soft suede ink. I got to look at some papers. Another thing I thought, in arranging this, there was still one more photo that I definitely wanted to use. I just didn't have enough room, and I thought I'd just sort of put some more photos down here at the bottom. So I've got this one with the rock, because rocks were kind of a big theme. My mother's been really into rocks this year, and adding those to her garden. So I've got those two photos that I'm going to put down at the bottom, so I don't really need a large amount of wood grain paper here. And then we'll frame this, but I thought for a border between them, it might be nice to do leaves. And it was so funny, I was just talking on the phone with a friend the other day. I was going through, while I was talking with her, some of my stuff and pulling out some stuff for that Use It and Move It video. And I said, I really need to get rid of these leaf punches. And she said, well, I'll take them. And I'd be happy to give them to her because they are very heavy to try to ship to anybody anyway. I've had them forever, but I've had them out before to get rid of them, and they never seem to go because I always seem to find a use for them. And here I am with the perfect use, because I think these would make a really pretty border going along the bottom of my page here to sort of separate out. And what I'm using to punch are some jelly prints, and I didn't know how well they would punch. These things, I find that they're too hard to punch with my hands. I put them on the floor and stomp on them with the heel of my foot to punch with them anyway. So they're not, they were made back before we got the more ergonomic punches. So I've got several jelly prints here, and I'm just going to do this off camera. Punch a bunch of these into leaf shapes, and then we'll see how that will create a border. But first thing, though, I think I want to do is see whether I'm going to be using this paper or I'm going to be creating my own paper. On a shopping video a while back, I shared some Stampin' Up paper that I wasn't super thrilled with. This is craft cardstock, and I thought I liked the color of it, so I thought I'd give it a try with stamping it. And I haven't used this particular background stamp before, so let's see how it does on the craft paper. It really doesn't show up well. So at this point, I don't know whether it's the stamp or the paper or the ink. I end up trying, I tried different paper, and that came out pretty good. I end up trying a different ink, Distress ink, but I had just the same results. But when I tried it on a little bit smoother cardstock, Stampin' Up's Crumb Cake, then it came out really well. So that's what I end up using for the background. I'm using Distress ink and Vintage Photo on the Stampin' Up Crumb Cake. I think the soft suede would have worked as well, but by then I had already switched inks. And I'm just doing my best to line this up going across, and it's coming out pretty good. I have a tiny bit of gap between them, but not bad. If I'd used my Stamp-O-Majig, it would have been a little more exact, but I'm going to be covering a lot of this background anyway. And I decided to go ahead and stamp this at the top, and then I'll put some kind of border sticker between them. So again, I'm not making sure everything is perfectly lined up and down because I'm going to have a border sticker or some trim or washi tape or something going across the middle. Now I've punched all my little leaves, and I'm adding some Distress ink to the edges. It's peeled paint. I don't do all of them, but I do quite a few of them just to make them stand out a little bit more, to make this a little bit more distinct border. And I used some of the brown ink on the beige ones. And then to glue them down, I just did a row of Tombow adhesive and then just started laying them down. And anything that needed a little extra glue, I added it later on. Not spending a tremendous amount of time placing these. But of course the Japanese garden is very green, and that's what I wanted to kind of emphasize with all these leaves. And it's just beautiful and so peaceful. All right, and I have a border sticker there at the top. It's actually two small stickers, and I end up separating them towards the end. And what I did for a mat or frame for that photo is I cut a design on the silhouette using a piece of jelly print that I had done some time ago for another project and hadn't used. It's got some lavender in it, and that's a color that I'm wearing, and I think that the lavender and green goes really well with this. I didn't want it to really stand out. I didn't want to add a bold color like red or anything to this. Then for my title, it's going to say something different, and I explained that in my journaling. What we were going for here in taking my parents to this garden is to do something a little bit different. My mother loves to shop, and my father has always indulged her shopping, which is not always buying things, but going to look and just going shopping. And so very often for birthday dinners and things, we'll go have lunch, and then we'll take her to a nice shopping mall. So my husband was looking for something different here and taking them to these gardens, and he knew that as much as she likes to garden, she would enjoy seeing this. And we did this in the Atlanta Botanical Garden, which turned out to be her favorite. And I'm going to add just a little bit of hardware on this to wrap up the page. So I added my journaling here on these long strips, and I just used the same craft paper and ran that through my printer, and then put some journaling on the back side. And I had a little bit of extra space, so I put part of a photo to show the hydrangeas that were in bloom there. And within the journaling, it has the date and location. So we'll kind of look at a close-up of this main page. So a lot of photos, a lot of journaling. Did not really add any other embellishments besides this row of leaves and just a few little minor things. So this is a real photo-heavy spread. We got to do some stamping here on the background. So thanks so much for watching today. I appreciate all your comments and being loyal viewers. I really appreciate it. Thanks again.